What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the Trail Theory Podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Alex.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Pfeiffer.
Fresh one.
Fresh boy. Who's introing?
Oh, there we go. Hey, guys, welcome back to the Trail Theory Podcast.
Don't know.
I forgot like 2 hours ago I told you guys.
Yeah, I'm going to do this.
Totally forgot.
Yeah.
Well, guys, welcome
Eyes
back.
wide open.
So we're going to tackle a new subject tonight. We're going to do a little bit of trailblazing. The subject tonight, trailblazing.
Whoa, hey, look at that. We're trailblazing with trailblazing.
Not to be confused with the Portland Trailblazers of the National Basketball Association.
Oh, shit. I have a lot of notes on...
That's all I have.
Yeah.
NBA stuff and basketball.
Damian Lillard.
Bill Walton, and a lot of
Rip City over here.
And,
Carry on.
Anyways. We're going to be talking a little bit tonight about trailblazing, what it is. And really my question when I brought this up was like, how trails were started, where they came from, what's the history, and does trailblazing still exist today, whether it's local or international? Is there still exploring? Is there still, new trails being created today? So that's kind of what I wanted to discuss. But I think the main thing to start off with is kind of like the definition of trailblazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what it is, what I found, it's creating or making a new path through a natural area with no formal trail exists.
Yeah.
So large patch of land, you want to get from A to B,
Make it happen,
right?
Yep.
And
I learned some things, which I don't know, after I read up on some of this, is a lot of things that like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but I just had never thought about it in the past. But
You gonna tell us?
I'll mention one thing. But one thing I learned is that until early 19th century, like going out and intentionally creating a recreational trail just wasn't a thing.
Yeah, people are just using animal paths.
Well, or animal paths, or if you were doing something like that and creating a trail, it had a purpose that wasn't just to go walk on.
yeah.
And it wasn't until people lost that naturally through like the Industrial Revolution and everything becoming urbanized and everything.
Go in and no longer had to walk across the field.
once humanity kind of lost we're out here anyway, this is just life. It was that immediate desire to get back to it,
Right.
Which is what generated the people going out and creating trails.
Exactly. Which was trails before, purposely put them for recreational purposes were like you said, a lot of them were started from animal tracks,
Game trail.
Game trail,
Game trails.
where they just had a path and it was, honestly incredibly efficient getting from one place to another.
Sure.
But a lot of it too was like early human migration, right? So, obviously like let's just take United States for an example. Across the Midwest, there's a lot of plains, a lot of just places that people could migrate pretty easily over these areas. But in denser, more intense forests, especially with like indigenous tribes, things like that, they had these specific trails that were to get to place to place. So these places did exist. They were out there and were a little bit more established, as more people started walking them.
Yeah, and you go back all the way, like some of the earliest quote-unquote trails, like the Inca Trail, or I think another one's called like the Aria or something, but it's like Roman military routes and trade routes from ancient civilizations that aren't here anymore. It's like that.
Right.
They were built for the purpose of doing a thing or just connecting two places.
Wasn't just people carrying shit, walking around.
It wasn't
in a
like,
circle.
I need somewhere to go carry a backpack and live in it's like they were doing that anyway. That's just life. And then
that was life.
But they needed
without Nemo tensors.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
But then eventually, after and that's once that was kind of not taken away, but just became less of a necessity to just be out there. And this calls way back to our first psychology episode, but where Austin brought up biophilia, which is like
biophilia.
It didn't take long for us as a species to be like, oh wait, need that.
We like that,
and we're gonna go.
It's a critical part of our
yeah.
happiness. Yeah.
Which I think and I don't know if there's a technical first, because I tried to look up what was the first like trail. And it goes back to like Romans. It's
crazy.
Right,
I don't even think you could like ask Chat GPT like, "What's the first trail?" It's not even gonna know.
It tries because I did try that. It does try.
Hey, ChatGPT, where was the first squirrel?
But it
Kent,
goes
Ohio.
it
That's
goes
the first
back
black squirrel,
to basically it's trying to find the first like established like roadway basically.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
Inca Trail came up and everything. But the first it really was
The dinosaur
in the
trail.
early it was in the 1920s I think. But when the Appalachian Trail first
where's
started
the first rock?
getting developed,
Yeah.
that was the first real big attempt at like
Sure,
I'm going
right.
to create a trail specifically
Yes.
for the purpose of recreation.
the Appalachian
That was
Mountain
the
Club.
Appalachian. Yeah,
Mountain Club.
exactly.
Yeah.
Appalachian Mountain
Yep.
Club was like the first club that went out and they decided to start on the Appalachian Trail. Pretty
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, it's so funny,
Ballers.
dude. Actually, like this is kind of not totally off topic, but speaking of like ancient Roman roads, it's pretty incredible the longevity of these things.
Oh my gosh.
For sure.
That were created thousands of years ago. And are still in existence.
Yeah.
And some of them being used today. They haven't been ripped out and paved over.
Or turned
Some
into
of-
parking garages.
Right, exactly. Being used that were handmade so long ago.
Yeah.
And we have roads with the most up potholes, constantly construction, orange barrels,
Yeah.
dudes in vests.
We were just talking about before
because the materials they use is f***ing garbage.
right. We were talking about before the podcast today that there's a bridge between my home and this
Terabithia?
studio that occasionally, just randomly and completely inconsistently, is just closed down and I can't get through. So I have to do this major detour, and there's no warning,
It's
no
insane.
nothing. And
Listen,
it's,
not to be
it's every,
that
like, 3
guy,
weeks.
but they don't build shit the same. I
No,
mean, go
no.
look at like old architecturally built like.
Also, you know what
Buildings,
a
man.
big component of
Columns
it
and
is
shit.
We're talking
Not
about
only-
4,000-year-old
hold on.
Roman
Not
roads.
only
Dude, I
do
mean,
they
they don't build them like they used to.
not
This is in
only-
the
It's a
1960s.
f***ing road. They're just dirt pad.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Not
Trust
only
me,
do
I
they,
get it.
it's not that they don't build them like they used to. It's that what they're building them for is completely different.
That is
so
true.
it's
Yes,
an old Roman cobblestone road that goes from one city to the next. You're not driving your Ferrari on it. You're not driving your freaking anything on it. It's
Yeah.
it's just it's,
Walk
it's,
a horse
for
and
walking.
That's
walk.
only
Yeah.
because Ferraris back then were really expensive, and only the pharaohs could
Right.
actually afford them.
Pharaohs.
Where are we?
Wrong
Oh wait, Romans. Oh yeah, right, yeah.
The Pharaohs.
The emperor.
Yes, the Caesar.
Caesar.
Yeah.
Caesar Palacci, right?
Jeez.
Nero.
The
Huh.
but
This is good.
it is cool whether it's a
The huts. sorry.
whether it's a ancient road that is now part of a pilgrimage, which is a lot of what I heard. Where so I mean the trailblazing of the past, whether it was done for recreational use or otherwise, is I need to go in that direction. No one's done it before. You look at our country, you look at the U.S., and it's like they landed here, and it's like, well,
That way.
west, like let's go.
We'll go that
and
way.
It's like, and they
You ever
just sort
played
of
the Oregon Trail?
right?
Come
You
on
just,
now.
you just
Yeah.
made it up as you go, and that is true trailblazing. And but the fact that some of those have become literal pilgrimages of we're going to rewalk the trailblazing of the past,
Yeah.
to relive kind of what our ancestors did back then, and then others is like as simple as an old railway that's no longer used anymore and is now like, well, we're going to repurpose that and make it fun and make it accessible and make
Dude,
it
Route
something.
66, man.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that.
Exactly.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
exactly
it's-
it.
But
Yeah.
that whole
It's like right next to a big highway.
Yeah.
So weird.
it's a little squirrely thing.
Listen,
It's
we
like,
talked
I'd
about
rather do
cars
that.
in a previous
We
episode
did.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically
Radiator
it.
Springs. Let's go.
But it is cool, and that's the one thing I and obviously in the U.S. the Appalachian Trail, but in Switzerland there's a lot of that, and it's like when they really make the intention of going out.
it's kind of
and making it
everywhere, right? I
recreational.
mean,
yeah.
Obviously, transportation has long been a part of history for humans. I mean, when you think about it in that, it's kind of wow, we're kind of small. But
I have a question.
I might have an answer.
What the is a walkabout?
A walkabout.
Like in Australia, you can go for a walkabout.
I was gonna say, I think you're saying it
I'll
wrong.
go for a walkabout.
A
They say,
walkabout.
Wait, so is a walkabout a thing that you do, or is it
It's
a
not
thing?
Australian. That's
Is it
a British
Why are
accent.
you asking? Is it because he looks like Nigel
I will
Thornberry?
go for a walkabout. Sorry, that's not.
That's not even Australian either.
I've been watching too much Premier League.
I apologize
Too
to
much
anyone
Bluey.
listening.
Not enough Bluey. Not enough Bluey.
Oh, mate, we're gonna go for a walkabout, eh?
I go for a walkabout.
That was better. That was better.
That's.
I'm not even gonna try.
No, I don't want to insult anybody.
the
No, is
Australians
a
like-
walkabout a thing?
We've already
that
insulted
is it
everybody.
Is it an activity, or is it? I thought it was like a thing. I thought it was like a.
I'm looking
is
it up
like
right now.
Is it like a porch? Like I go out on the walkabout.
A walkabout. sorry. A walkabout is a term dating to a pastoral era in which large numbers of Aboriginal Australians were employed on cattle stations.
Okay.
Well, this is not where I thought it was going to go. So maybe I'm not going to do this.
We're committed now.
Yeah, all right, never
You
mind.
better relate
Let's
this to
just-
backpacking.
Yeah, no, let's not.
All right, we're
get into
gonna-
it.
we're gonna
I guess you know
shift.
what? I asked the question, "What's a walkabout?" Nobody knew. I looked it up. I still don't know. Let's move on.
If you're new to the podcast, this is what you're gonna get.
This is what you're gonna get. Maybe in the comment section.
Welcome.
Give me a good link to something that would explain what a walkabout is.
Yeah,
I guess
please do.
the only
Or if you're Australian, just answer the question.
throw it out.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, answer us, and you'd be like, "Shut up,
Oh, all right, mate. Come on.
stupid American."
Another shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah, shut up, is stupid.
Wow, we are saying the most stereotypical
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. just-
Australian
Yeah,
thing.
rugby, cricket. Sorry.
What is
Wow.
happening?
I think we have some Australian listeners, so they
Yeah,
can
well,
throw
not
some
not
shade.
anymore. We
Not
don't.
anymore.
Go
Yeah.
ahead and
Like,
throw the
these guys
shade,
are
guys.
idiots.
Go ahead and throw the shade.
you like a cheeseburger?
They're laughing. They're laughing.
All right, let's.
Would you
move
like some Grey
Where are
Poupon?
I
don't know.
Wrong country, wrong thing.
Dude, yeah,
All right, we're way off
all day long.
So, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the history of trailblazing.
I don't know. Who
And what
knows?
trailblazing is. I mean, the whole reason this topic came to my head was because I was thinking, does trailblazing still exist? Like, is it
Yeah.
a thing anymore besides trailblazing in an industry?
I don't
or like
think you
Yeah,
can
we
call
you
it-
yeah.
can miss the trail and you gotta
specifically in
hack
nature.
through on the trail.
I think
I
in
think-
larger sense, though, you're not. They're not really calling it like a trailblazer. It's an expedition, and it's something that like people, you've never, there's tons of people that are on the North Face team or the Patagonia team that are going out to Antarctica and going visiting mountains or active volcanoes down there that
Right.
no one has ever been.
Yeah,
And I
to.
think
first
So
we've
ascent type
talked
stuff,
about.
I would
yeah.
say,
Right.
yeah, I
We've
would say
talked
a
about
first
some of it.
ascent is going to be a
like
trailblaze.
even like the last Tepui, which
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
is like
Great
that.
example.
There are specific.
Absolutely.
It's more. I think the difference, Austin, is what used to be out of necessity, where it was
now, like,
like
out of sport
I
and
need to
fun.
go over there, so I'm
would say it's
blazing
more
the
of
trail,
science.
right? And I keep thinking of the El Dorado movie, the anime. What was that? There's a song in it called "The Trail We Blaze," which is funny.
yeah.
But no, it's
Hell
like
yeah.
you got to go that way, or we want to go that way, or we don't know what's over there. We want to find out. So it's like there's that, and then there's I think the more modern version of that is we kind of know, or we haven't explored the entire Earth, but we feel like we have because you can kind of know.
Well,
there's
we
through
have satellites
and
that
everything.
can pinpoint people's ass cheek pimples,
Right.
from a billion miles away. So,
But-
like, whoa, we can zoom in on anything,
Right,
but
the minutia of
but
that is like the last
physically-
Tepui, or it's like I'm
Yeah,
gonna
dude.
maybe it's not a new place that no one's ever been, but I'm gonna do it in a different way that no one's ever done.
I want to
And
physically
Right.
be
stuff
there
like
rather
that.
than just see it from
Exactly.
a satellite.
For sure.
So I think it still does happen, but I had the same question: is there a place still today where someone is going out with the intention of like no one's ever been there, we have no f***ing clue what's there,
Absolutely, yeah.
and we're gonna find out, and the only way to find out is to go there physically and see it.
So, and I was doing a little research, and unfortunately, I didn't do it right before this episode a while back about like unexplored area in the world,
Yeah.
besides like the oceans, right? Because that is
Antarctica.
also like
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
But
Alaska.
there are I'd see Alaska's not one of the places. Like, dude, if you think about the size of like Eastern China and Russia, there are
Oh, dude.
Never going
places that no one has been hundreds of miles even in certain
Right.
areas and have only been seen through satellite.
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Dude,
Oh,
they're,
dude, 100%.
they're so isolated that there could be whole groups of people living
that no one's ever seen.
that no one's ever seen.
Yeah.
Indigenous people living there that no one's ever seen before.
That happens a lot on islands and stuff too. Yeah, absolutely.
That
And then
can
all of a sudden, you get shot with an arrow because they have no idea what you are.
Well, there's been a recent
there
video.
was a documentary about that.
Exactly.
I forget what it's called.
Dude, could you freaking imagine? Talk about could you imagine showing up on an island like with your little boat and your fucking iPhone? Be like, all of a sudden,
you guys have a Starbucks?
Yeah.
They're like, what?
Do you have an
We didn't know you
arrow in
existed.
your face?
Yeah. We're gonna eat you.
Yeah,
yeah, you're
You look
food.
real good.
You are food.
You need a little salt and pepper, but
yeah.
no, that's
Wolf.
not correct.
No.
But no, it's there are definitely. I would say this. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think that we have visually seen. At least technically from satellites and things like everything on Earth, it's all been explored in a way, but
Visibly
the physical challenge of being there in person. Well,
right.
Because you could also take a look at let's say a mountain that hasn't been climbed.
Right.
That is the new trailblazing. Yes, we've all seen that with our eyes. It's right there. We can see it. But how do we get there?
So here's
Last Tapui. I mean,
Last
Tapui, Or Meru.
is
And
a
Meru,
perfect-
right?
That's what I thought
Yeah.
of when I was thinking
But
about new trailblazing.
Yeah.
and
the
I
shark
think, and I wonder if I feel like this has to be true. There's no way it's not. The Earth is so damn big. This has to be true. But I feel like we gained the ability to go up in space and take pictures of the planet before we actually managed to see all of it.
Correct.
So it's we can see a picture of the planet. So we've seen it all. But no, we haven't. Because there's got to be a million places on the planet that no person has set foot on. And we can
that
see
to me
it.
is the magic.
We can
man.
technically see it.
I feel like this is a question somebody asked if they were really high, but do you think that there's a place in Alaska somebody that has not been seen by the human eye?
Yes,
100%.
dude.
Yeah.
You know
Absolutely.
how
Isn't that
big
crazy?
Alaska
Yeah.
is?
It's so crazy. That blows my mind.
I would go even further, and I
There's
would
cities
say
with 5 people that live
Right.
there, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
I would,
Crazy,
and there's places in the United States. I would bet
you think
that a human eye hasn't actually
100%.
seen.
I would agree.
You think so?
I would 100% agree.
Absolutely. Because
so,
why
okay.
would you? There's places that don't call to people to go see.
Do you know how far a human eye can see?
Oh, it's a
13
lot.
miles?
It's a
I think
lot.
it's 6. Oh, well, let's Google it.
Well,
Jamie, pull it up.
wasn't there? Oh, I feel like I just saw.
Dang, human
Was
eye.
it Theo Vaughn was on either his podcast or he was on one, and he was talking to David Spade
I
or
feel
whatever.
like this is where I got it, and that's
he
why
was
I need to Google it.
randomly mid
like,
conversation.
what does that have to do with anything?
I think he was talking to Dave. He was either talking about David Spade. No, he's talking to Rob Schneider.
He was talking to
I
Rob
think it
Schneider.
was
Rob Schneider was like,
yeah.
"What
He's
are you
big, huh?
talking about?
What are you talking
He's
about?
like,
Yeah,
how-
I think I did. Yeah.
Theo's just out of the blue. He's like, how far can a human see? And then Rob's like, why are you asking that? What
What's
does that
the
have to do
number?
with
That was
anything?
David Spade, not Rob Schneider.
He was talking about
No, he
David
was
Spade.
talking
Oh, he was-
about David Spade in
to Rob
yeah.
Schneider. Yeah, it was. I remember this. I can vividly picture the video in my head, but I don't know what the number is. You will have to look it up.
I
But,
am. Hang on.
But still,
I'm
he's
seeing-
Okay.
I'm seeing 3 miles.
On a clear day, you can see up to 3 miles. So that definitely.
it?
okay.
So you have to be within 3 miles of every place in
Yeah, dude.
Alaska in
No
order to see
chance.
all of it. That's definitely not happening.
right.
There's no
definitely
way
happening.
that it's not more than 3 miles.
I mean, it depends on where you're at too. If
I
you're
was
up
on when I was on Rainier. I got to see
yeah,
Mount
but you're on a
Hood.
mountain. They're probably taking the average, of sea
If you're
level.
standing
Is it an
flat.
African swallow or a...
I bet you they're
Where'd you
taking
get the
at,
coconuts?
at sea level. Let's just assume that's
On
a normal
average,
day at
on
sea level
average.
on average doing all
Normal
normal things.
visibility.
You're not on a mountain, but still, even then,
I just see something. The eyesight range of a human is infinite, so there is no maximum distance a human can
well,
see.
yeah, we can see stars. So f***ing
That was
you can
from
see that far away.
That was from. That was from. That was from Warby Parker.
Hey, what were you using?
We can't see stars. That's more than 3 miles away. Oh my God.
Bro, were you using Ask Jeeves or what? Dog pile? What's going on over here? Well, but okay, all right. So I will
Welcome
say
to the
this.
Trail Theory
Think
Podcast,
about-
everyone,
okay,
where
think
all
about-
the information is
If
accurate.
you're just on the ground,
Lost the
Okay,
plot.
yeah. It's I should have kept reading.
Read more.
On a clear day, you could see up to 3 miles before the horizon due
Okay,
to the
there you-
curvature of the
okay,
Earth.
there you
All
go.
right, okay.
Yet you can see skyscrapers
not
in
flat?
further distance due to 3 miles due to no horizon obstruction.
so if you're just on the ground looking straight,
that makes sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you
It
look in the
makes
sky,
total
you can
sense.
see stars during the night. Listen, I don't think we have an answer, but I'm pretty sure.
Did you say if someone was asking if they were high asking this question? Are we?
I think our signature drink from last episode might have been impeding our
Whammo.
abilities
No,
to.
I just didn't read far enough.
Oh
and,
my God.
All right, so
I think you got. Yeah.
humans can see really far. That's been established.
Wow, I
but
can't
no.
believe we had to ask that. Like, oh, dude, we all fell for the hook, man. Like, the jig is up, man. We've been made.
I think it goes back to the point that yes, I think the fact that we can see and we can see a picture of the Earth is like, oh, we've seen the Earth, like we know the Earth, and I think that's so far from the truth that there's so much out there. So, to Austin's original question, are we still trailblazing today in
that type of
in
way?
that type of way in nature? I think absolutely yes. I think it's way different though, because on a humanity level, like we don't need to, like, but I bet you there's specific groups of people out there. I mean, you look at even in Alaska and the little tribes and there's small groups of people that live in very specific areas that they're part of their ability to live has to do with like. I mean, they're surviving out there. They don't live like we do. They live. There's Aborigines in Australia.
Think about how many mountain groups and like clubs and stuff like that over in the White Mountains and stuff like that where we were.
Right.
Like
even in an area where
there's nonprofits set up to do trailblazing, to maintain the trails, and to do those kinds of things.
I mean, dude, think about
Well, and that's the biggest thing right now. Let's take a look at the lower 48 United States, continental United States, and trailblazing in this area. Because really, because of all the whether it's BLM land or national parks or anything like that, like trailblazing is not non-existence, right? Creating a new trail, like you and I cannot go out and create a new trail anywhere we want unless it's land that we own.
It kind of violates to leave no trace. So.
Well, that's where I was kind of going, right? So, like, one, most of the land is claimed, and there's rules against doing anything like that, right?
Right.
Two, if there is a space that does have trails that exist, they are maintained a lot of times by volunteers, different like groups and clubs that will go and like maintain these lands. We've met people who've been a part of them, like when we were in the Whites.
Right.
There's lots of people out there, but then also obviously in national parks, state parks, things like that. They have people that will maintain this. But yes, it kind of violates leave no trace because again, we're going out there for recreational purposes. We're not. If it was a survival situation, it would be different, but we're not. Supposed to go out there and just start chopping shit down for fun.
Yeah. And I think in the, like you said, in the lower 48 is, so are we specifically here, I feel like we're in a spot where there's no need to go out and find new areas because the whole purpose of that was what? I mean, it broke down to, in the past prior to recreational backpacking and stuff that we're used to is you're doing it to find resources, you're doing it to connect two places, you're doing it for militaristic needs,
endeavors,
and or conquest and things like that. So you're doing it for a purpose that isn't just recreation. So here in the lower 48, none of that exists. We don't need to go find oil somewhere that's in the lower 48. It's like that's been established already.
Sure.
So if you're doing it, it's in all the BLM land and the national parks themselves have been established, have been boundaried. The states have been boundaried. It's all regulated. It's in the true wild areas of the world where that would still exist. Which, if to the extent that it does, it's the people living in those areas that are doing it. So like
because it serves a purpose for what they're looking
because they're doing and then as that place becomes more established and urbanized or whatever, eventually if it ever does,
Right.
then those
Once
things,
Dollar
those trails,
General finds it.
right? Those trails that have been developed for hunting or for military or for whatever will then just become recreation, like it did here. So it kind of just making a delineation between like what the Appalachian Trail was, which was I'm specifically carving this out because recreation. I want people to be able to enjoy nature versus what we've done like for something else, and now we're converting to that because it's not needed for that anymore. We don't need it for a railway. We don't need it for, this, trade path between two cities or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So
I'm curious how often, because again, we've established that most of the land in the United States, has some sort of organization, whether it's government or a nonprofit organization and club that maintain it. I wonder how often like a new trail is being created within those spaces.
Well, I was trying to think, like, I'm pretty sure there was a new through hike trail that was just completed, like, not too long ago. And maybe it wasn't, like, creating it from the start to finish, but it's finding pathways in between pre-established trails to get to the next pre-established trail. So you're trailblazing a small gap to create a longer trail.
That's interesting.
And then you're extending that into the Continental Divide or the John Muir Trail or the PCT or like that kind of thing.
Well, I was going to say, like, the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, I mean, these were trails that did not try to connect multiple trails together. They were kind of established for this purpose.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to like kind of create new routes and new like challenges and through hikes by connecting a bunch together to see if you can like.
And one question is like for the AT and the PCT, was most of that a connection of things that already existed and they kind of put it together, or did that occur first and then everything else kind of branched off it? Because when we look at Manistee, we were there,
I think it's difficult to answer, right? I mean, I was on a trail last weekend with my kids that was a brand new trail. Like they were saying in Summit Metro Parks, there was like a placard about it, and the trail itself was literally just abandoned land that they had turned into a trail, and now like there were like stats and whatnot about like the wildlife and how it's like changed the area. Like there were this many species before, and now they've like done this, and this, and it was really fascinating. I mean, but it was just an open field.
So it's changed in a positive direction.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing you have to recognize too, is like now cities are wising up to the establishment of these types of things because it is incredibly popular, but also like people really enjoy getting out, right? I mean, I would say in the last couple of years, rarely have I gone to a trailhead and there's not been anyone there. Like how many times have you ever done that? There's always people hiking. Yeah. Always.
And so just real quick, just to interject, because I was looking it up, the AT is all pretty new.
Well, you know what's even crazier than that?
It was a coalition that was created in like the early 1920s.
Yeah,
right.
The first part of it was started in like 1925, which 100-year anniversue coming up next year.
Yeah, pretty close.
But it was.
We should do it.
It was built with purpose. Dude, shut up. If one of you guys wins the lottery.
Yeah,
you're paying.
All right.
I think to win the lottery, you got to play the lottery. So I think now's the time.
You don't need any new gear for that.
You know what's even crazier than that, though? That I learned is the PCT.
No, it's not new gear. It's taking the time off work.
Oh, I thought you said to purchase new gear.
So that I don't have to go to my job.
Brian's like, have no fear. I'm ready.
We don't need any new gear.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Support my family for the months that I'm gone.
Yeah, pay my sabbatical time off. Pay off my mortgage. We can go.
Because I wasn't as the date of the AT in the 1920s. That one didn't strike me as much, but the PCT was like the 60s.
Right.
Like, that's so young.
It's new.
It's like I know that is still 60 years ago, but still it for something
80,
that
but who's counting
60 1960 40 plus
I don't know
24?
why I thought of this, but it just made me think of like
I'm sorry, I mixed it.
That
I didn't do the math wrong.
I know this is not how it happened, but it just made me think of like all right, we're gonna do the PCT, let's go, and then one guy gets in a bulldozer and is just like just goes all the way down. He's like, done.
The CDT was created in 1978.
Dude, and that's what blows my mind is like some of this is
my mom was already out of high school.
When I think about it, I think it's like, oh, it's been around might as well be forever. Like in my brain, I never tried to put a date on it.
In the context of it, it seems like it's just always been there. But literally forever.
And that's why I end up keep circling back to the same thing, but it just blew my mind that the fact that none of this ever existed until like we needed it to exist. Like we need nature, so we have to go out and create this stuff because we're not getting it anymore. And
humans like hard things.
Right? We need challenge, and
the first blaze of the Florida National Scenic Trail was marked in October of 1966, but the trail wasn't officially designated as a National Scenic Trail until 1983.
Oh wow!
Damn.
Wow,
shit takes time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but then you're also then you're splitting between how long, like when are national parks defined, right? Like, true. I mean, technically, like CVNP isn't.
Well, you think every Appalachian Trail, PCC, every trail, it's all grassroots. It exists before it exists. No, like they don't decide, say, oh, here's the AT. Here's exactly what it's going to be. Here's how people are going to utilize it.
Right.
Let's go build it. It's not like you're putting you're building a skyscraper. It's somebody is going out and saying, this is something, and it's sort of built as it goes, and that's literally trailblazing. That is the definition of it. And then it gets recognized later as,
this is a thing other people should enjoy.
This is an established thing, which is cool.
And then when too many people enjoy it,
then they regulate it.
They just shut it down and start arresting.
No one's coming. You're just going to get arrested.
Only in Hawaii.
Don't know what you're talking.
Go back to the last episode.
It's crazy to me when we think about the age of some of these things.
It makes me think of a few episodes ago we were talking about, I went to Puerto Rico and El Yunque National Wilderness or National Forest. But like that was just a rainforest.
Right.
And then now it's got roads through it and it's got paths and hiking trails and stuff. It's like somebody saw that and then
recognized the beauty of it.
Exactly.
And
said,
share it.
we want to experience that. How do we do that in the best way? And then that slowly morphed into trails developing and people getting access to it.
And that brings us back a little bit to the discussion that we sort of got into last episode where we were like, is the preservation of this protecting it or not?
Right. Conservation versus access.
Right.
Versus access. And
I thought you were going to talk about us only being able to see 3 miles. Forever.
Another discussion for another day.
That is so ridiculous.
We're going to need to have a flat Earth episode.
Yeah, right. We're going to have to. Well,
the Earth isn't flat.
We got some other conspircy theory ideas that we're going to talk about
in future episodes. Incredible.
Had a little contention. But anyways, I digress. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So, like, a place like that, it's almost like, it was beautiful rainforest, this jungle, this thing that was, like, untouched and beautiful, and now we have roads and paths through it.
Yeah.
But we don't have Starbucks, and we don't have office buildings through it. So, it's like you almost have to shit on it a little bit
to make it accessible.
So it doesn't get totally destroyed.
Yeah. Because, it's accessibility at that point.
Thinking about it a little bit more.
Most people aren't going to just get out there and
that reminds me of
without a road.
Your description of I don't know if it was Grand Canyon or Yellowstone, but basically at the gate it's like civilization.
Welcome.
McDonald's, Wendy's, Starbucks, and then gate, and then
boom,
wilderness.
Yeah. All those big park towns have like a
right. So you got a grocery store right outside, and then it's like see ya. It's just completely empty wilderness, which is I don't know. I think that's the transformation of what trailblazing has been for humans over the centuries is cool.
Now, also on that note, it's interesting to think about, if the trails and the demand wasn't there, those built up areas wouldn't exist.
Right.
So like if like the Grand Canyon existed, excuse me, and no one gave a shit.
Right. It wasn't cool.
That built up area of hotels and restaurants and whatever wouldn't exist.
And that's why I think if anybody would use that area for anything, because there's no like natural resources you can
and that's why I think there's so many places around the world where it's completely untapped, because either we have kind of seen it and deemed that it's not worth
it's not been recognized as like a thing yet,
or we haven't seen it at all yet, or haven't seen it with enough detail to recognize that it is worth that and actually establish it. So it's like there's Grand Canyons out there theoretically that just haven't been identified yet as like with the potential that they have.
Yeah, and some of that though too, and this is interesting. I'm curious to take on this, but there are areas that the opposite happens where it's like they get over sensationalized.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Niagara Falls.
Yo,
I mean, it is.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Tourists, like, dude, it's. I mean, it. Have you guys been to Niagara Falls?
Yeah, man,
multiple times.
It is, and I think from here it's like 4 hours
on the Canadian side.
And
if you go to the US side,
never been.
And really?
I keep thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, why have we? It is absolutely bananas how cool it is. It's so freaking
and it's
cool.
absolutely bananas how like
commercial
it is. And how commercialized
it's disgusting.
It's
ridiculous.
It's disgusting.
It's crazy, dude.
It is. It's
kind of heartbreaking.
It's like it missed the cut to be like a protected
area. They just said like, this is cool. Go for it.
There's
go for it. Like
just,
that. Honestly, it's an
have
example
at
of like if you did not have like obviously like people didn't go and like and pollute it and destroy it.
Well,
right. But it is like one of those examples where it's like, you know, you can look at the falls and look, you know, a little bit to the right and there's like an IHOP. Right. It's
you have a hot dog
insane.
stand company? Come on.
I think it's to the right.
I think it's because it's just like it's the water. And because no one's like polluting the water or doing anything like that, like it's okay because everything else to the side,
It's a
like
fucking
whatever
carnival,
It's a
dude.
zoo,
Yeah,
man.
it's
It's like a Buc-ee's
on the
gas
Canadian
station.
on the Canadian side it is. It's less crazy
Buc-ee's
over on
are
the
way
US side, but
much better managed.
I mean, it's been a while for me, but yeah, it's
the
it's
US side is kind of boring compared to the Canadian
dude, the
side.
Canadian Falls are so much better.
Yeah.
Is
Canadian Falls better.
it? I haven't been on the Canadian side. Is it as
It is
Same.
better.
same?
Dude, it's the same shit.
What do you mean by better though?
Is
the
it? Is it
falls themselves or the stuff around you?
No. I'm not talking
You
about
get a better
so,
view.
Canadian Falls way better.
Yeah.
The nature side of it though.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, but the
Commercial side,
the
same
chaotic
shit.
commercial
Same
side.
shit.
Same
No,
shit.
it's Canadian.
It's more
There's just a
chaotic.
maple leaf on everything.
It's more chaotic on the Canadian side than it is on the US side. By far.
You think?
You think?
By far.
Wow.
I haven't been there recent enough, but
We were there. Mason was
Dang,
like
man, see,
The
One in there
coolest, the
recently.
coolest
So
thing there
5 years
though
ago
is
we were there.
the whirlpool, dude.
Yeah,
Have you ever taken the cable car over the whirlpool?
No.
No, I've done the ferry.
I think this sounds like a Saturday road trip.
Hold on.
I think it does. I've done the ferry.
There
We
is
could
like
do
a
a day
little,
trip out.
I think down river.
Love that.
From the Niagara Falls
Yeah.
is a whirlpool, and you could take a cable car over.
That's dope.
I remember doing that when I was a
that's
little
cool.
kid. I mean, it's
I've
been
done that.
years.
Yeah.
Maybe I made this up. Did I just have a dream about this?
Did
when I
you
was
do
a
the
kid?
Maid of the
No.
Mist?
I haven't done that.
No.
I think I'd like to
Same.
next time I go.
I did Maid of the Mist.
I will
Did you?
say
Yeah.
it
It was
is
cool.
it is a shorter drive to go from here to Niagara Falls than it is to go from here to Dolly Sods.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's close.
Dude, it's easy.
really not far.
Yeah.
We've done my wife and I when
Toronto's not that
driving
far from us.
driving to
No, it's like 3
Massachusetts.
hours.
Some of her family lives in Massachusetts. We've done Niagara stops on the way because it's like you're passing it anyway. But
Yeah,
it's
dude,
easy as shit to get to.
I
from here.
haven't been there since I was a little kid.
It's
Yeah, dude. There's a whirlpool. You can like take a cable car right
man.
over it. It's
hell
dope.
yeah.
yeah, it's
In.
it is.
What river is the Niagara Falls?
Oh gosh.
The Niagara? No, I have no
I have no
I mean,
idea.
maybe,
I should
probably.
know. We should know, but we
But
don't.
I'm a look.
It is it's very interesting, and actually, I forget
Isn't it
how
the Tigris and the Euphrates? I'm so sorry.
Shut up, dude. The Fertile Crescent.
The Mississippi.
I forget how Niagara came up, but it is interesting to see the contrast between like something like that, and I guess
It is.
It's the Niagara River.
Bang, baby, got it.
I'm buying a lottery ticket.
And maybe it's
Dude, it's 3.5 hours from
hours.
here. 3
Yeah,
hours and
3.5
20
hours.
We're
We're
going tonight.
super close.
Dude, that's not. I could get there without stopping to pee.
We could walk there in 3 days.
You? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about you.
Yeah,
I could do it.
That's
if
the
we pushed
US.
it.
Well, I
Pinch
guess it'd
the
be
That's the US
Luxembourg,
side,
but
yeah.
It's the US side, but
it's like 5
Not
to get
far at
across
all.
and do the other.
That's so crazy.
you could walk the bridge to get over. It's really cool.
Oh, nice.
going.
We're gonna need, but it is nuts how commercialized it is. I forget how this came up, but
Well, I was talking about
that.
the over commercialization
Right.
of these areas. And Alice and I listened to a podcast about it and how like the US, like they kind of acknowledged they f***ed up, like they f***ing ruined it. And like when they started establishing other parks, they were like, we cannot let it become Niagara Falls.
Because imagine
Wow,
this.
so it's an example.
Imagine
think
if
about
example.
Imagine
the
if
rim of the Grand
Right.
Canyon.
Well,
Right.
no, but
If that
imagine
shit was going on.
If you looked over and there was like a fucking hotel on the edge. You know that would happen, right?
Right.
That and Niagara Falls
that
set
made me
the
puke.
set the
There are
example.
tribes over there that
Right.
like that
Well,
is
what
sacred
not to
land
do.
for
They're
them, though,
also
and that is
they
very
are
different.
trying to build up.
I know they
a little
are.
bit. They're
They
getting a
are.
lot of resistance to it. but-
Imagine
as they
what,
should, in my opinion.
I'm sorry. What do you
privatized businesses.
Yeah.
Trying
build
to-
where and
Like cable cars and
the
all kinds
canyon.
of shit in
like
the canyon.
stuff over the
Yeah.
canyon. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of like pushback because of Niagara Falls, and it's like, look, dude, not that you can't go enjoy it for the beauty of it, but they it's there's so much
the
shit
tribes
around it.
there
Think of-
are putting up the fight because it is sacred land for them. It is,
Absolutely.
absolutely,
And it should
and
be.
it should be.
So going back to Niagara, think of if all that commercialization wasn't there, and let's say it was more of a Grand Canyon where all the area surrounding it was
And you took
completely
a trail to get to
and
it.
you had to hike. You had to spend. It was a point on a trip. It wasn't the trip. It was a point on the trip. So you had to hike to get to it, and you just like we did in Wyoming. You walked up, and then boom, there was the falls.
So
It wasn't a drive up, and it's like,
That'd
I
be
can see it out my window,
ridiculous.
and now I'm going to go stand on a balcony. It was I just hiked 3 days.
I got there.
and now I can see it.
Yeah.
I will
Imagine
say
that.
there are things
we could do that. It would take us 3 days to get there.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
to.
It would take
We'd
us.
be
it
well
would literally
We'd have to
take
take
walk
the
us.
whole way
through.
there.
We'd have to walk through the lobby of a true.
It would
Hilton
take
there.
us 82 hours to walk there from my house.
Sounds
Is there a
Kinda nice.
Waffle House on the way?
Yeah,
Dude,
I'm
there's
sure
gotta
there
be
is.
about
Let's go.
8.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful walk. You're walking along Lake Erie almost the entire
Oh,
time.
Awesome.
I will say, kind of in a different way.
Yeah, it is.
It reminds me of Horseshoe Bend in I think it's Utah, out like Lake Powell. It's a similar, like, it's magnificent. It's, the curvy thing. Everyone's got the photograph of it, but even though, and it's kind of commercial around there, but like the little trail, I think it's like a mile there and back to get to like the edge of it or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But you don't see any like commercialization around it. It's just
Right.
like you're in nature, you're out there, you're doing it, and then you walk back to your car, and then like the town's like the town, but it's not anything like.
You know what's another
Niagara
one?
Falls.
And we've gone off slightly off topic, but
little
another
bit.
one that
That's
stands
okay.
out to me is even Mount Washington at the Whites is, and Mount Mitchell, which I wasn't at, but same thing, is they've commercialized it to the point where you can drive up
Yeah.
and there's a hotel. You can see the hotel from the summit.
Right.
That's off, and it's like that's the place to stay. I forget what it was called for Washington.
Madison.
Was it Madison?
Jefferson?
But
I don't know,
there's
I'm just saying
the
presidents'
but
names now.
there's a hotel that you can see from the summit, and from the hotel you can see the summit, obviously. But on the top there's buildings. It's very, very established and everything.
Right.
So at what point there's that access versus whatever else we were talking about.
Man, that's
conservationism. So to conserve the top
Yeah.
of
Loses
Mount
a little bit of
Washington
the
the right
magic.
way and
Yeah.
make it truly natural and make it, you get up there and you can see it for what it is fantastic, but you lower the access.
Yeah.
To increase the access and make it so anybody in there
You got to chop
can
a
get
couple
up there.
trees to make sure they're not all chopped down.
Right, but you got to also
Man,
now
that's
there's a cafeteria up there, and now there's
crazy.
we had a great spot to warm up and everything.
Dude,
It was
I
fantastic.
had nachos.
We had nachos at the top of Mount Washington, but
We did.
it's like it's not
I had chicken
conserved
salad,
anymore.
sandwich.
You've not maintained its natural beauty. At that point.
Cranberries.
So what's funny is that like a lot of these national parks, like they're protected. They don't have like a lot of that commercial business inside the park, really close to it. But I tell you what, dude, they kind of do. Because if there's a gift shop right next to the Grand Canyon,
Yeah.
I'm spending so much money.
Let me get those stickers, baby.
Dude, there's commercial businesses right next to the Grand Canyon because I'm gonna be spending the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they know their audience for sure.
No,
And
I know, I'm kidding.
I do, and no, I mean, it's still a good thing, right? They do need to like pay the people that manage, and like the rangers need to get paid.
definitely, yeah.
Right.
So those things make sense, but they can do it in a tasteful way where it doesn't feel like you're being swarmed up by the world, right?
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, there's differing lines of that and differing degrees of that, and I think a park like Yellowstone, where it takes you hours to drive across, is very different than Niagara Falls, where it's
Here's
like,
the one
here
thing.
it is, like that's it. You
Right.
see it, you've done it. Like there's not really a trail to it. Like it's just
I
kind
think
of is what
that's
it
the
is.
difference. Even if you look at like the New River and
like
places,
spread out.
There's
That is pretty spread out over there. I think
it
you're
is,
right.
but there's a very there's lots of things to do there.
Yeah.
And even like Hocking Hills here in Ohio, where it's like it's established in the sense that they recognized, hey, this area in general, this wide, breadth of area is really cool. So we're going to build businesses. We're going to do lots of cool stuff here. But if you go in those areas, you can still get a natural, wild like, kind of trip.
Dude, imagine like waiting for the bus and just Niagara Falls is right there. Or like if they did that in the Grand Canyon, you're just like, I'm going to sit at the Grand Canyon for a minute and have a cigarette before I go to my job at Dunkin' Donuts down the road.
Yeah.
Like it's just wild to me to
I think what gets me is that
Niagara
like
Falls
if you're
right
going to like a wilderness area and there's like panhandlers and there's like stuff that you would see in like the middle of a very urban environment, or there's a McDonald's on the corner and stuff, and then there's there's Niagara, and it's kind of like a sideshow. It's like I'm in a city that happens to have a really pretty thing instead of I'm here for the pretty thing and I had to work to get here.
Yeah, right.
So
it's interesting. Like divide, like coming up with the balance of like how much accessibility is enough accessibility, and like
how much is too much.
You're basically like who gets to see it, essentially.
Yeah. It's so funny that you mentioned like they recognized that they messed up Niagara Falls.
Oh, dude, we've talked. Alice and I have talked about this so much, and there's a lot.
You said you listened to a podcast.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. Yeah, I'll have to find it
because I'm interested to hear more about that. That's an interesting take on protecting national parks further, because there is an example of where we didn't do it well.
And I think there's probably more.
There's definitely more.
And,
right?
For sure. And what's amazing is there are things that we know, and we've probably been to today, where we haven't hit that line yet, and you don't know where the line is until you pass it.
Right.
So like when you're building Niagara up and they're saying, oh, this is wonderful. This is such a great tourist spot. Like this is going to be a great idea. Let's do this. This is fantastic. Lots of revenue. People get to see this beautiful natural wonder. It's great. And then until you look back in hindsight, you're like, oh shit.
Well, that's why I think like you mentioned that there's like some stuff going on at Grand Canyon where like they're trying to develop some things.
Yeah.
That's why I think there needs to be a hard line. Because you don't want to toe that line of, oops, we did too much.
Right.
Because there's no going back.
Get into politics at that point then.
Well,
there's a lot that goes into that.
I'm sure. And it's eventually it's up, local government, it's up to the people what they want to do with that space. But it's
sometimes it's not, dude.
Well, it depends on who owns it. But I mean, it's you look at, I keep thinking Red River Gorge, New, Yakagani, like the areas near us that we've been to, where at least to me, it's established enough to the point where it's like, whitewater rafting companies came in because it's a river, obviously, and they do guided tours and stuff, but it's not a.
It's because I guess I have a little bit of insight on that, because like when you think about like the Cauga River, right? It's in our backyard. You think about that. Well, it was a disaster. Mm-hmm. It was polluted. It was gross. It was getting dumped. It was on fire. But then you clean it up. You get regulations put in place.
It becomes a commodity.
And then when companies come in and they like float the river, right? They come in and they are able to use the river for business, but they are also cleaning the river.
Right.
They're also doing volunteer stuff to every month go into the river and pull out polluted stuff, or tires, or trash cans and grills and bicycles and all kinds of shit that people
dump in. Or even just providing a service of teaching people how to kayak and how to use the river.
So they go in and use the river and stuff like that, but they are helping the environment. They are helping the thing that they are able to use as a business.
Let's recognize too, the amount of industry that those types of things and how it impacts the area. I recently saw an article, so it's been really great for the articles episode, that I think just from the eclipse alone, it brought like $15 million to the area.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like that's nature just doing its thing, right? And I think anytime the rivers are good examples, but I think a lot of people, I think like big business gets kind of a bad rap in some of these scenarios, and rightfully so. But there are instances where it's like when you infuse private dollars into public spaces where it's like the government maybe doesn't necessarily have prioritization to focus on those kinds of things. It's like, all right, like they'll take all the help they can get, and that's an awesome thing because it only benefits like the areas in most cases. Maybe not in most cases, but like in certain cases, for like the joy, like we get to enjoy those kinds of things, and we're super lucky that we have that. But the rivers are a good example, right? Like if businesses didn't give a shit about it, like no one would care.
Well, and also it would become less of the wonder that it is.
Yeah.
So like if the Cuyahoga River still was the way it was back in, when was the Burning River?
60s, 70s.
If that never changed and it was still just as shitty as it ever was and it was still burning.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't be able to reproduce because we'd all have cancer and die.
Well, that too. Yeah. But it also
would have 3 eyeballs.
It also wouldn't be the attraction that it is, and the businesses wouldn't have come around it in the first place.
Oh, right. That's true.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a given it. Like if Yellowstone was just opened up and it's like, go for it, guys. Have at it. Like there'd be a lot of cool shit that happens. There'd be some
and
not cool shit.
But I think maybe not.
It would be, but it's a gamble. Like you have natural wonders that when it's really opened up, like Niagara, where you look back and you're like, not in great taste, guys.
Well, that's the thing is like, I think that like maybe because of the era that we're in, let's say today they did that. After all we've known and always seen, I think it would be a lot different.
Yeah.
Because if you would allow it to develop back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and now we'd get to today, I think it would be destroyed.
Yeah,
sure.
Right?
100%.
Because I think it's different. Because I think
and
they also know
the demand's different.
The demand's different.
The people wanting that stuff and wanting access to that are people like us who want to appreciate it and not,
But I love the buffer. I love the even if it may seem thin at times, I love the idea, the protection that it's under now. And
sure.
And if you make it exclusive and you make it protected in some way, and it's like, and I love Brian, your example of even the Cuyahoga River is like, there's some barrier to entry there, and it's not just, there's a lot of people there, and I have a food cart, and I'm if I'm an outdoor company and I really appreciate the space and I'm going to bring something to it, and I'm going to use it in a way that's relevant,
encourage community,
make sure
and
that
all
you
that.
have a positive effect on it. Absolutely.
And it's like those are the ones that get in,
right?
That it's more intentional and it's more supportive of what the thing actually is, instead of just let's commercialize the out of this and then make a bunch of money.
Which does happen.
Which happens. It has. Yeah. I mean, that's Niagara.
I just got an idea. I would like for us to explore and see if we could sponsor a trail at one of our local metro parks or the national park in the name of trail theory, and go out there. I'm going to quickly do a little bit of research after we're done with this our episode and see if that's even possible. They might be like, no, we can.
Hey, I've seen so many benches.
Dude, we could get a brick.
We could get a brick.
We can
get a bench.
A pine cone.
If we really buckle down, maybe we get a pavilion. Like there are
imagine a trail.
Maybe we set up a donation fund for our listeners and get a trail theory fan base donation to help with keep our trails locally.
I was just at the yesterday. Well, technically, still yesterday, I think.
Yeah, it is.
I was at the Cleveland Zoo, and I can't tell you how many freaking benches there are. Donated or sponsored by who's its and what's its or whatever. But
Dwight Schrute.
Yeah, Dwight Schrute. We should totally do that.
I think that would be sweet. That'd be
cool
dope.
idea.
That'd be trailblazing.
All right,
for the Trail Theory.
It
podcast.
would be. All right, before we end this episode, I wanted to talk to you about something that I've always wanted to do in my life. It has to do with trailblazing, and I'm sure it's possible. But like, dude, honestly, like pipe dream. I may have talked about this on another episode, but like pie in the sky. What I would love to do one day is like, obviously, I'd love to have land. A lot of land.
Oh yeah,
pop a cabin up there, something nice, whatever. But I want enough land to be able to create my own trail running or walking.
Yeah,
I'll probably
do like a 2-mile loop or something.
Afford it. But like a loop or something like that, and then like figure out how to trailblaze it and create the trail and map it out and see what's the best. I mean, you could use like so many things like GPS and all these different things to try to like get like your map and try to figure it out. Like that's exciting to me.
You can just use Alltrail to do that.
How much?
Yeah, probably.
We should look at this. How much acreage do you need to do like a 15 to 18 mile loop?
That's pretty
15
big.
to 18 that's a lot. That's a lot of acres.
I know.
I was gonna say my dad had I think 36 acres, and we had a lot of trails there that they had made.
Yeah.
But not like that long.
Because like if you look at
that's a long. I mean, think about the square mileage of that.
Right.
Unless you're just doing like a
real
like
tight. It'd be super tight.
That's like Rhode Island.
Well, I mean, you like some of the shorter ones we've done. I mean, what was Manus Day? trying to think of the shortest one we've done.
Manistee wasn't short.
Still would have been over 20.
You would need a lot of acres.
That's a chunk.
Yeah. I'm just curious. I'm just curious the number.
You want us to? You
how
want
big
us
that space is?
Do we buy a chunk of land and create a publicly owned hiking trail?
How would that work? Publicly owned?
No, I'm sorry, not publicly. Privately owned. I meant private. Sorry, wrong word. Privately owned hiking trail.
At that point, we're buying. We're just opening a campground. Like that's
A free campground.
We call that a campground.
There we go. Call it a
that's
campground.
the Trail Theory campground, and that's our.
Yeah. Come on down.
There we go. And then we'll have some
in.
trails. Well, I'm in. Yeah,
well,
we can
trails, campsites, merch. We'll have some McDonald's and an IHOP and we'll
pizza shop apparently, but that not called Miguel's because we would never
Miguel's.
compete with them.
We'll call it Michael's.
Michael's.
Yeah, there you
Michael's. Mikey's
That's amazing.
Pizza.
Awesome, dude.
Man.
Save me a slice, man.
Man, well, is there anything else you guys want to discuss about trailblazing?
I don't know. We blazed this episode
We were all
trail,
over.
but
All
I would
over the
say
place.
a lot of fun dialogue. Yeah, let us know if you've got any insights into trailblazing, if you've ever blazed a trail or gotten lost and had to blaze a trail like we've had to do, which we didn't talk a ton about. But
that's right. Like the one instance where we actually did kind of trailblaze a little bit, we barely even.
Yeah,
we've talked about it before.
We're not marking the trail for other people to go through.
That was
We're
more
not
of like
building.
we
That's
were
bushwhacking.
bushwhacking.
Yeah.
I guess that's one aspect of trailblazing
Yeah.
we didn't talk about as like survival aspect is
right.
when you
Just
need to
getting
like
through
do
it.
Machete.
Sometimes you got to get from point A to point B, and there's no path, so just make one.
Make one.
you know.
Maybe next time we'll discuss that a little bit further. We appreciate you guys listening and watching every week. Episodes post every Wednesday. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube now. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment below.
subscribe.
The email is trailtheorypod@gmail.com. If you've got a question, let us know. We love answering those, and we appreciate it. Tell your friends. We'll see you next time.
We can only see 3 miles.
The Trail Theory Podcast is sponsored by Audimute and Audio Technica. Music by Dan Koch.